Huge shout out and thanks to Daxton and Reggie who support the show on Patreon.
Hi, this is Daniel Goodman.
Dylan Wang from JPerm.
Ian Scheffler.
Shiva Mansur from India.
This is Alex from Z3 Cubing.
What's up, guys? This is Jaden McNeil from Australia, and you're listening to the Corner Cutter Podcast.
Hey, that's right. Welcome to the Corner Cutter Podcast. Podcasting since 2014 and cubing since 2015. I'm your host, Josh, and this is the most consistent speed cubing podcast dedicated to entertain and educate you with in-depth conversations with cubers from all across the sport. My website is thecornercutterpodcast.com, and thank you so much for joining me today on episode 86. Today's guest is Dylan Wang, who runs the YouTube channel JPerm, and we talk all about his new website, jperm.net. JPerm was first featured back on episode 70 of the podcast. And even though the main reason he is back on the podcast to talk about his website, we also discuss the recent FMC competition he went to and the SpeedCubeShop Open event that was held earlier in August. As always, if you have any feedback, I would love to hear from you. You can email in josh@thecornercutterpodcast.com. And now let's jump right into today's discussion. Dylan, welcome back.
Yeah, hey, it's good to be here again. It's been a while. It's been like almost a year.
Yeah, you've been featured back on episode 70. Now we're approaching 90, so that's pretty exciting.
Wow, anything special planned for 100?
I've been thinking about that. I'm not saying anything yet, but I do have some ideas that I'm thinking about.
All right, that's good. I'm excited for it.
Thanks. So this episode, it's all about your new website, jperm.net. Could you tell us a little bit about it? And I know you released a video talking all about it. I'll link that in the show notes, but could you explain more about it?
Yeah, so the main thing I wanted to accomplish was have an algorithm organizer plus trainer. So that way, like for one, algorithms that are lesser seen, like ZBLL and stuff, which I don't have on the site yet, but those ones you could train more. And what a lot of people do is put their algorithms into Excel sheets and get the pictures for it as well by themselves. And I figured this would be an easier way for everyone to keep it organized. So the website's still in development, and I also have other things on it just for the sake of being a complete website. So also a lot of the more basic tutorials, like how to solve certain cubes and blindfolded, CFOP method, finger tricks, and all that. So I just wanted, I wanted the trainer and the algorithm organizer, but then I guess I got carried away and made everything else as well.
Nice, yeah. So it can be a site that you kind of direct people to learn how to solve the cube as well as getting more in depth with speed solving.
Yeah. And another reason that I think it would be helpful is because when I was first learning cubing, or really when I first learned anything, I often check Google, but I don't want to go to a video because like with text, you can see everything and you can see if this is going to be a waste of time or not. But with a video, you can't. So I feel like it's a little bit for me, but I feel like for a lot of people as well. There's like bias against tutorials and some people tutorial videos, and some people have like a bias for tutorial videos, and I just figured it'd be best to have both.
Yeah, and definitely there's different people have different learning methods as well. So some people might not like watching something, but reading it, like you kind of just explained there. And some people might not actually even think of watching a video.
Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes it's like, why do I need a video for this? Even though it could actually be clearer.
Yeah, and then they just like do a Google search or something and find the website. Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah, so recently for the site, people have been asking me to add a login system so that you don't have to store the algorithms and your times on your browser like you would for like CS Timer and stuff. But instead, you could like see it from all devices because this includes your algorithms as well. So it's important that it's transferable. And so I haven't started working on that yet, but I've been looking into how that is done. And for the first time in my life, I searched on YouTube before Google how to do this. And I clicked on the longest video that was there instead of the shortest one because I knew this would be a big topic. But a lot of times, if I'm, for example, studying math at school and there's a concept I don't get, I usually search on Google first. And then if I do have to go to YouTube, I go for the shortest video and it just doesn't make sense. So for the first time, I'm like actually adapting to that experience that I've had.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I think this would be great as well because even if you clear your history by accident or something happens where your computer shuts down and clears it, or that can be frustrating.
Yeah, I've had a few people message me saying that their times or their algorithms they're not there when they come back. And like, I don't know if some people just have their browser data disabled. Like, I do know that some people might have that on by accident because I think anyone who knows what's going on with that would not have asked me. They would have just been like, oh, my browser, whatever, is disabled. But I don't know, that's like a rare thing. And I've asked people like if that's the case, and they don't usually respond to me when I ask that. They just say, hey, there's a problem, and like be very vague about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like this big thing about web development is like there's so many different browsers and people will use everything differently. Then there's like ad block that can actually mess with things on the page if it thinks it's an ad, but it's not. So man, there's so many things to deal with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about, do you think you'll still have it for you being able to change stuff before logging in, or will you have people sign up for an account first and then they'll be able to access
I
stuff?
think I'll probably have stored on your browser the way it currently is if you're not logged in, but then if you log in, then it doesn't store on browser anymore. So that way, like I don't think I should force people to have to make an account, but it's like a lot more convenient if you do.
Yeah, I agree. So having a login feature was one of the things people asked for. Anything else?
Yeah, a lot of the most common suggestions include like making it an app, which I've made it like I spent the last few days after the official release making it a lot more mobile friendly. So now it actually works there and doesn't look like a desktop site. You don't have to do a bunch of zooming and stuff. So now that works, there's not really as much of a point for an app besides it being offline. And like that takes so much work because like I've never done app development, but I believe you have to do it separately on iOS and Android, I think. And it also it takes a lot more work because it then adds another thing you also have to that I also have to do but besides the website, because it actually becomes its own thing. It's not like on the website, if I like add a new algorithm set, then I don't have to add that much code because the code takes care of itself. But then if I make also an app, then I have to add it there as well. So basically like everything I do is just ×2 or ×3 if I'm doing it like iOS and Android. And I've never learned how to do app development. So I don't want to get into that now, especially since I'm starting another term of school now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Anything like any features that you want yourself on the site that you haven't added yet?
Yeah, I started the bare bones of working on this thing that is you like enter an algorithm and it's going to in some way tell you how good the algorithm is. So you know, like when beginners see certain algorithms, there are only a few metrics they could use to determine if it's good. Trying it and see if it feels weird, but also the lower level you are, the less you realize how much regrips affect things. So like, for example, people coming up to me with RUL algorithms, and that's not a very good moveset because you keep having to regrip your hands. So that's why like RUD and RUF are better. But I remember when I was first starting out, I didn't know that either. And so if there was a thing that could tell you how many regrips are here and exactly what finger tricks to do at certain points, just using like programming, then I think that would be super useful for people more starting out. And for people who are really good, you don't need that because you can just try it yourself and you have all this knowledge. But I'm just trying to find a way to translate all that knowledge into a computer program. And I think that would be super useful to everyone.
Yeah, I can remember myself when I was looking for a new algorithm to learn, or a better PLL algorithm. I'd like look at the length first, then see how many cube rotations or those kinds of moves, and that would be kind of my classification for deciding if the algorithm is good or not. That's not always the best way. So,
yeah, exactly. I think someone was recently talking about this algorithm that Max Hilliard, the world record blindfolded solver, uses for a certain case that you can solve in, I believe, like 10 or 12 moves, but this algorithm is like 18 moves long, and it is better simply because it doesn't have regrips. And that is not something you'd realize unless you were really advanced.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I think end perms are also around 15, but you can do it in 22 if you do the setup to J perm, which is I believe is 22. So it's like, yeah, things like that you wouldn't realize if you were more starting out. And I think like the more I was thinking about it, the more I was like, it doesn't seem ambiguous as to when you should do what, not all of the time. Like, for example, when to use what finger trick. It seems like you could come up with a very good guideline of that, because I don't feel like it's very up to interpretation what everybody does. It just depends on what finger tricks are good, and then you just do them for the sole purpose of reducing regrips, and that's it. So I don't feel like it would be that impossible to come up with a computer program that does it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds good. Are there any features on your new site that you want to talk about more that you didn't mention in the video you released?
Not really. I think I did talk about everything, but there's one thing I want to remind people of, because a lot of people didn't watch the whole thing. If you go to the algorithm trainer, you can, instead of going back to your algorithm set, you can reveal a hint using the left and right arrow keys, or if you're on mobile, you can click on the hint button and click on it multiple times to see the moves. I think that's what a lot of alg trainers that at least have the same capabilities as mine were missing, where you'd have to actually go look up what your algorithm was instead of just a really quick way to figure out what it is if you forget.
Yeah, so, I really like that, because then you force your brain to remember it and not doesn't give you the whole answer, so it makes it easy for you. I think that'll really help people in learning their algs quicker.
Yeah, I hope so. I definitely hope so. I haven't like studied memory and stuff, but I really hope anyone who's an expert on this looks at my site and is like, yeah, that's the correct way to go.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the idea of making a site like this, and what was the process of creating it?
I think usually what it takes for me to take action like this is when I feel like what is currently there is like inadequate, or just could be improved on, and I feel like I have the ability to do that. So like there are some pretty good algorithm trainers that I've used. Like I think there's a ZBLL algorithm trainer, and one that I used a little bit for training EG1, and I don't remember what exact sites they're on, but they both had like things that I really wanted out of them, like obviously the hint thing, but I also wanted to not train an entire set at once and be able to exactly pick which algorithms I could train. And so for the ZBLL trainer, what I really liked is you can train by groups, or you can pick individual algorithms. And for the EG1 trainer, I remember it was just like the most basic trainer ever. So I was thinking I could probably make a better version for this, in the sense that it now includes every algorithm, not just like this is specifically for this algorithm set. And now I'm like, when I do add a new algorithm set, it takes me very little time to actually produce all of the scrambles for that algorithm set and make it so that now everybody can use it, and it works just like for every other algorithm set. So that's really what I wanted, to be able to add algorithm sets quickly that people can organize and train.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then how did you start actually making the website?
So I've had like a little bit of experience in web development, but like not. I never actually learned it in school. It's just I was in like 8th grade, and I liked web comics, and I don't have it anymore. But like me and my friend were working on this web comic site, and through that I learned just from Googling. Like I wanted to do this. I know other sites can do this. How can I do it? Just by looking at their source code and or Googling how to do something and then figuring it out. So I had a basis from there. The first thing I did was like using HTML, which is like structuring pages. I made a table and then I inserted some images, and then using JavaScript, which makes the page interactive, like I added a button that could change what algorithm shows up, and then also be able to store that in your browser's memory. Okay, I guess this is getting kind of advanced for anyone who doesn't do web development, but like basically I did that, and it was really ugly, and then it just took like months and months, and eventually I just kept adding one little thing at a time until it ended up being like a lot of stuff. So but it all started with one black and white table that just had a list of all the algorithms with no pictures, and I could just change the algorithms.
So how long ago did you actually start working?
Oh, actually, around the same time, I didn't realize it was around the same time that I was on the podcast last. So
cool.
I think it was like late November last year. And I worked on it till January, and then school started and I just couldn't do it. And then I started it up again in the summer. And I really, really wanted to get even an unfinished site out before school started again, because I knew I wouldn't have as much time to keep working on it.
Yeah. And you did. So congratulations.
Yeah, but the mobile part wasn't ready, but now it is ready. So I think I'll be taking like a sort of a backseat to this. I'll still be working on it, but like a lot of the hard part is done, and hopefully I'll do more of it like in the winter.
Yeah. Well, at least it's there for people to find and use and get better at cubing with. So that's great.
Yeah, I hope maybe one day I can like use the data from it to look at what algorithms people use and stuff.
Hey, that's
because right now it stores in your browser and it doesn't store anywhere else. So maybe one day I'll be Mark Zuckerberg stealing your data.
Are algorithms that private?
Yeah, they're not private.
Yeah,
it's not. It's absolutely not the same thing here.
Yeah. But that still would be pretty cool seeing what people actually use and like.
Yeah, but I do also feel like the default would be used way more than others. So it's like, it would be hard to get an objective sense, but I could like see for the people who don't use the default algorithm, what's the most popular. And I feel like that'd be some useful information. Maybe even learn new algorithms, like someone just keeping it secret, but put it on the site and then.
Maybe. Besides doing the app and the mobile stuff, what has the feedback been so far?
A lot of people, it's kind of half and half on people saying like, "Oh, this is really good," and people saying, "Add this, please." Like, add very small thing, or add very small thing that's unimportant, or add very big thing that there's no way I could do. But yeah, like a lot of the feedback has been that it's useful, and some people have actually been a little over the top, saying like, "Oh, this is the only cubing site I'll ever use for the rest of my life." Like, I've actually seen that a lot for some reason, even though there's no regular timer on this site. So like this, yeah. Anyway, so I think a lot of people are just happy that they don't have to make Excel sheets for some of these algorithm sets. So that's like one of the main goals here. So I'm happy that people liked it, and I'm also happy how much people were willing to spend time like finding bugs on the site and reporting it to me, which people have been emailing me with, and I've been getting a lot of those. So I'm really grateful that people are doing that, because it's like something I spent a lot of time on before it was released to the public, and found a lot of the bugs, but now everyone's like being super helpful. Yeah, man, the cubing community is great.
That's great. Is that something you think you might add though, a timer, so people can go from algorithms to solving it back really easily?
Yeah, I've been getting that as a suggestion a lot, and for some reason I don't know why I didn't think about it before everyone was like, add a timer. So Yeah, I'll be adding a regular timer, and as the site is not devoted to that, I do not suspect it will be better, as in more customizable and more features than something like CS Timer. Because the point of this site was never to replace anything else; it was to exist as something that does not exist yet, which is why like the main focus is on the algorithm organizer and trainer. But if people want some other particular feature, I will add it. It's just like CS Timer is entirely a timer, so and it's constantly being worked on. So I don't think it'd be like best to come here, but people do want everything in one spot. So I guess it would make sense to add a timer.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I've also been using my own. I was using my own site to train EG1 because like I remember using a different EG1 trainer, and I was like, this doesn't do that much. Like I couldn't train specific algorithms. It had to be some full set at once, like all of the T cases or something. How much have you used the site? Like, have you used the trainer at all?
I took a look at the trainer. I've just been so busy recently with school.
If you're doing like Pyraminx and Clock, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah. But no, definitely, I kind of slacked off at 2x2 and need to relearn CLL. So I think that trainer is going to be super helpful in relearning those algs.
I hope you like the algorithms that I put there.
Well, I can always type my own in, so
yeah,
that's the good thing.
Forgetting 2x2 algs is like another one of the reasons that I like this site, because I forget them. It's so easy to forget 2x2 algs.
It's an event like you have to keep doing sessions, or else, I mean, if you slack off at all.
Yeah, and it's not like quite as fun as other cubes. Like if I start doing a 7x7, I'm like this. Like any solve could be my PB. I just need to be good. And then 2x2 is like you still have to be good, but the luck factor is larger, and I feel like that makes it less fun in a particular way.
And kind of, it's not. Well, I guess that's sort of why I like Pyraminx as well. It's so intuitive, something different every time, and you're always trying to master those tips on the solve, so it keeps it fun and exciting.
I feel like for me personally, the turning on Pyraminx is a little awkward because I like do mostly n by n's, but I've always really liked how Pyraminx, even at top level, is highly intuitive, and that just seems like a great thing that 2x2 is missing.
Yeah.
So what are your main events besides Pyraminx? And well, I assume you do a lot of Clock, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of toying with Clock, making them and all that sort of stuff. But no, I have gotten pretty fast at Clock, down to around 12 seconds. So that's an extremely fun event. I'd say my other event is just 3x3. It's just fun as well, and nice off branch. I mean, I guess it's always been sort of my main event before Pyraminx took over, so just keeps it fun.
Yeah, for 3x3, I feel like that's a lot of people's main event for obvious reason. It's the original, but I also feel like with 3x3, it's so amazing that the original one, the 3x3, is the one that like I think at least is the most important for your improvement in almost every other event, even if not other n by n's, because you get to turn really fast, like faster than any other cube, than compared to like maybe 2x2 you can turn faster, but you turn really fast, and there's look ahead, unlike on 2x2, and there's case recognition, which is on every puzzle. And so essentially 3x3 has what every other puzzle has, except you can turn faster than them, which means it pushes your abilities the most. And I think that's amazing that like that happened to be the one that, not for those reasons, became the most popular one. And now because of that being the most popular, I feel like that has, if you do practice 3x3, you get better at every event.
Hey, I never thought about it that way. That's really interesting. Huh.
Yeah, like because people are like, I average, like, how can I be sub 1 on 4x4? And then they tell me the 3x3 time, and it's like 20 seconds. And I hate to tell them this. I hate to tell people this, because it's like if you want to be really good at 4x4, sorry, you have to be really good at 3x3 as well. So go practice more 3x3, and you'll automatically be better at like every other event. Because I remember when I was learning 5x5, I remember it like I was just slowly turning intuitive things into case recognition plus turn fast. And that was, oh, and also look ahead, which is essentially all there is on a lot of puzzles. So having already developed a lot of that on 3x3 just makes it so that other events, when you get into it, are super easy.
What about the argument, though, that you're practicing 3x3 on every 4x4 or 5x5 solve?
That is true, but not... Oh, but yeah, you're practicing it during the solve, but it's... Wait, do you mean that helping your 3x3? Or
Yeah.
That...
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, it's not really the same because, like, you don't get the same turning speed part of actually practicing 3x3. So it's really important to be able to like do a solve where you're turning really fast, because if you have a limitation on your turn speed, then you don't have to make your other parts harder too. Like you don't have to recognize faster, you don't have to look ahead better if you're turning really slow. But on 3x3 you have to do those to be good.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, is there anything else you want to share and talk about on your site?
That's pretty much it. I've yet to add more interesting things than this. So there's going to be like a lot of other tools, including the thing I said about determining whether an algorithm is good or not, and like telling you the finger tricks. I have other ideas that they're probably not as good as that one, but I do have like other small ideas that, in fact, now that I think about it, I think some of these other ideas I have are just thrown out there. I think they might exist in other places already. For example, if you are doing blindfolded and you want to know if your memorization is correct for a particular scramble before you actually try it, because it takes a long time when you're first starting, you could just type it in somewhere and it can tell you. I think that actually exists already. So, but I just have a bunch of random little ideas like this that might make it onto the site one day. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, having it all in one place would be nice as well, instead of having 10 different sites bookmarked.
Yeah, and the thing with cubing is the resources, a lot of the very specific resources are unpopular enough due to the size of the community not being that big, that when I Google these things, I can't find it. And like when someone tells me it, I have to keep it bookmarked. And if someone asks me how I found it, I have no idea anymore.
Yep, exactly. Uh-huh. Can you give us an update on your channel? You're reaching 150,000 subscribers, right? Or are you past that?
Ooh, I am past that. I am at 190 right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Uh-huh.
So hitting
definitely
200K in about a month, I think.
Yep. Huge change since last time you came on. Do you remember last November?
I hit 100K in January, I think. So
Okay. So you were
wow, yeah.
on your track to 1K. I mean 100K.
Yeah.
Last podcast.
Yeah, wow, that's okay. Now that I think about it like that, that sounds like a huge change.
Mm-hmm. So that's almost another 100K in less than a year. Can you tell us what has happened with that?
Yeah, I actually noticed a huge growth in daily subscribers and viewers after like a few months after the beginner tutorial and tutorial series kind of that I made, which includes 2Look OLL and 2Look PLL. And at first I was like, you can find these anywhere. And as you can see from my site and from the beginnings of my channel, I never was trying to make something that was already there. I was always trying to make something new. So in the beginning of my channel, it was like more advanced stuff. And then with my website, I'm like, I'm not trying to replace other timers. But then for some reason, once I actually did that, it kind of connected the people who were starting to cube, like which is most of the audience that's actually going to watch the videos, with everything else that goes with it, like all the more advanced stuff, CFOP, F2L, and then eventually, super advanced stuff. So that for some reason, all of a sudden boosted my subscribers and viewers like per day stuff, it like at least double. And that really surprised me because I didn't think it had that big of an effect. But yeah, that's why this past year, my channel's been doing like substantially better than the years before. And yeah, I think I didn't realize how important it is not just to like keep people watching, but like to find new ways to get people here that weren't already here, because there's always going to be people leaving. Like, I know a lot of people unsubscribe from my channel every day. It's just there's more people subscribing. So like, people are going to inevitably leave, but like, you always have to like find the best way to get more people, because that's the only way to keep things steady. And I didn't realize that before, but yeah, I guess that's kind of happened by accident.
Yeah, well, thanks for that update, because I know that's something we talked quite a bit about in episode 70, and your extremely quick growth up to around 100K. Another thing you attended recently is the SCS Open. Can you tell us about that?
That was okay. So that was one day, like it was the Saturday, I think, but I was there for Thursday to Sunday, and that was just a really, really fun weekend. I was
I'll have
hanging out.
the video linked in the show notes as well.
All right, thanks. So I was hanging out with Cameron and who owns SpeedCubeShop, and you've also done a podcast episode with him, right?
I did, yep.
Yeah, I was listening to part of that, and I remember, like, I specifically remember the part where I think he was talking about race car driving, because he really likes that. And he made a comment about look ahead in driving, like, being compared to cubing. I think that was on this podcast, and then I remember thinking that was a little odd comparison to make. It is true, but I just found that kind of funny.
Yeah.
Do you remember him saying that?
Yep, that was like in my final question or something. But yeah,
I might have listened to the whole thing then.
That was on this podcast. Oh no, maybe it was in the first question. I'm not. Yeah, it was in the first question.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was in this podcast.
Okay, yeah. So it was really fun hanging out with him. He had a lot to say about like the history of cubing and his experiences with the store, because he's owned SpeedCubeShop since 2008, working out of his room. And back when, like, you know, being one of the most popular cube stores, it was enough to just like have all your stock in your room and just manually ship it out from there. And then I was also hanging out with Brandon, CubeSolve hero, and at some point I met with Cubing Encoded. He wasn't there the whole time. He was he was just there for the competition day. But yeah, that was like a super fun experience, being a very different competition than usual, because there was the side, like the competition was there, but there was also like 50% of it was more about people visiting the store and getting to try a bunch of new puzzles, which you don't get at a lot of competitions, and also being able to buy stuff. Everything was discounted. Yeah, a lot of the people there, I feel like the atmosphere was similar to a lot of competitions, but also a lot different in a lot of good ways. Like, for example, the head-to-head tournament was a lot more fun for other people there to watch and for the parents to watch, because normally a parent will just go and watch their own child do solves, and the rest of it is just, you know, it's just people doing solves, right? There's no spectacle about it, because that's what everybody is doing, until like you put people against each other, and now there's like upsets, and even though this was not an official competition with official results, people were still having, I think, a lot of times a lot more fun than official competitions. So I thought that was really cool. It shows like a different side to competitions, because competitions are often run in a really similar way. So it was cool being able to see what else also works.
Yeah, and there really hasn't been an event like this before. Do you know who traveled the farthest to come?
I think someone, like, okay, I think Cameron has more of the details about this, but he did say someone was flying in from, I don't know, I have no idea if anyone came from like different continents, but at least there was someone flying in from a few states over. I don't remember what state. It might have been like, actually, no, if it's Texas, I was thinking Texas, but I don't know my American geography very well. Maybe Texas is right next to California. But anyway, someone flew in, and that was huge.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, also, compared to competitions that I usually go to, because I often go to like competitions just only around where I live, like within a 3-hour radius. But there, it was like people that I have It's entirely people that I haven't seen before versus at local competitions where there's always new people, like maybe at least 10 new people at every competition. But so there are people who are like, oh my God, can you sign this for me? But then when I was in California, all of a sudden everybody had never seen me in person before. So I got to like meet a lot of cool people, including like, well, there are like kids at the competition who are asking me to sign things and stuff. And there was also a shirt that you get at the competition. So a lot of people asked me to sign their shirt, but I also met a lot of other cool people who were saying like, there was this one person, I don't know if I should say his name, but he studies like memory and stuff. Well, at least that's part of what he studies. And so we were talking a little bit about like algorithm learning, and I thought that was really interesting. There's also somebody else who who had a kid, and they both cubed, and I thought that was really cute because they average around the same thing, and they were racing each other. But yeah, the kid was absolutely better during races. Yeah, there were a lot of really fun things going on. I felt like the parents were a lot more engaged too. So it's like, if you're a parent for cubing, you're a lot more likely to take your kid out to competitions if you're gonna at least not be bored there. Like you've seen parents at competitions.
Yep.
A lot of them just
late afternoon. No, after lunch. That's
yeah. I feel like if they're still there by the end, they will watch finals. Because it's finals, especially if it's head to head. But if it's just for like most of the rest of the day, it's not all that interesting if you're not competing.
Can you tell us about the competition you went to on Saturday, which was September 7th?
So that competition, as we're talking now, was actually yesterday. And so it was the weirdest competition I've ever been to because there were nine fewest moves attempts. And can you tell me how long an attempt takes?
An hour.
Yes. So once you factor in all the breaks and stuff, we were there for over 13 hours.
So what time did this start?
Started at 8 a.m., but I had to wake up at 6:30 to pick up some people and then drive there.
Woo!
And I think I made it home
Wow.
by like 10 or even later. So man, that was the most tired I've ever been in my entire life. And I've been up for I think the longest I've ever been up for is like at least 40 hours. For school, stupid school stuff. But this was the most tired I've ever been in my life. Jeez.
Wow. Did your FMC solves near the end of the competition show it?
I'm not sure because I'm really inconsistent, but my averages did progressively get worse throughout the day, but I do think I just got less lucky throughout the day. So, oh yeah, my results, those are pretty exciting. First solve of the day, I got 24, which is Canadian record, or ties for it with one other person. And
Nice.
yes, thanks. I knew I could get it because I have two 24s at home and I have a 25. I had a 25 officially. I just needed to get lucky and then it happened. And I also got a 25 later in the day, which also really surprised me because my best solve besides these two, I think, was like either a 29 or a 30. So that just goes to show how much luck is involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yay, it's my first record. I could have gotten the record for the average as well, but I didn't. And like the only things that made my solves progressively worse throughout the day was the fact that I got a 24 in first round, a 25 in first round, and in third round or finals, I didn't get anything super lucky. So I just had a very normal average. I think my means went like 28, then 30, then 31.
Okay.
Do you do any FMC?
I don't know. That's something I haven't got into.
Well, I personally think that it's not a fun on your own sort of thing that much unless there's competitions near you for it. Are there any?
In Massachusetts, there's FMC. They usually do Please Be Quiet competition.
Oh, you should definitely learn it then. It's really fun.
That's still a drive, though.
Oh, okay.
3
Okay. That's fair.
to 4 hours, but Yeah.
All right, yeah, I don't know if I'd drive that far for a Please Be Quiet competition.
Uh-huh. You're right. Uh-huh.
Yeah, especially
Yeah,
because
well-
it doesn't have any of your main events.
Yeah. hmm If there's Pyramix, I'll go.
Yeah, do you have organized around there like FMC Americas or like the worldwide FMC competition?
Massachusetts does do the FMC Americas.
Is it close to you or at the same venue as the other one?
Well, that's still 3 to 4
Ah,
hours
okay.
away.
Yeah,
So,
I see your point. I probably wouldn't have. So the only reason why I started doing FMC was because I happened to go to a competition that had FMC, and I was like, I already knew some of the stuff, and then I got some decent results. And then when the next one was coming up, I was like, hey, let me actually learn this, because it's just coming up, right? But then if you had to like go out of your way, if I had to go out of my way for FMC, I probably would not have learned it.
Yeah, that's sort of what I did with blind. I was going to a competition with blind, so I decided I might as well give it a shot. Yeah, but 2 of the how many? I don't know how, but well, I've organized 2 competitions, so that kind of explains. There aren't many competitions in my area.
All right.
But organizing is fun too.
Yeah, I've never actually I've never like learned much about the organization side of competitions. I don't know if you've talked about this on your podcast before, but like, is it like a big hassle? You know, like finding venues and like trying to schedule everything.
That's where I got stuck. I was going to organize one last year around this time. That's kind of where I got stuck, finding a venue for it. I wanted something really local within 30 minutes, and there was really nothing in my area some places had big enough venues, but then they didn't have enough tables and all that kind of stuff. But if you're like in a city or something, they usually have some good spaces where, like a community center, and then if at your school, if that's big enough,
Yeah, I've definitely
good too.
Been to competitions in schools, like high schools and university schools, and also churches. There have actually been a lot of competitions around here held in churches. I guess because I guess churches have a specific day of the week that they're really full, and on other days they're not being used quite as much.
Yeah. Hey, that's I haven't really thought about churches as much, but that might be a good idea. I know there was one competition in New England with that they used a church and there wasn't enough tables, so you just gotta and keep a reminder in your head for that. But yeah, otherwise, if you can find a venue, and a delegate that works on, that's pretty flexible, or a couple, then it's not too hard. They usually walk you through the process, and I mean, you're busy on competition day, but it's not too overwhelming.
Yeah, all right. It's some interesting stuff.
I do have an episode coming up taking a deep dive into how to organize a competition and all Q&A and all that. So that should be pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be really useful because I know there are some people around my area who are like quite young, not like irresponsibly young, like, you know, but like early teenage years who have organized competitions. And so it definitely can be done by, like, I guess they most likely get help from their parents. I haven't actually asked them about it. But it's like definitely doable. And for anyone who wants more competitions in their area, like you can, I'm sure if you tried, you could figure out how to organize one.
Yep. Yeah. And usually, like, after I organized, well, there had been one competition in Maine since the WCA started, and that was in 2016. And then I organized my first one in 2017. And then after that, there's been like 5 more competitions. So if you can get one in your area, some other people might step up and organize as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely a thing that happens. Once somebody does something, everyone's like, "Oh, you can do that."
Yeah. Yep. And
That
then you
happens
can.
in cubing a lot, actually. Like when people first get something like sub 10 single, like a decade ago or something, everyone's like, "Oh, you can do that," and then everyone started doing it.
You're right. Okay, well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. JPOM, good luck with your channel, and thanks for coming on the podcast again.
All right, yeah, thanks for having me. I'd be happy to come on again someday. If I make an app.
It sounds good.
It's always great having Dylan on the podcast. You'll definitely hear him back on again sometime. If you want links to stuff we mentioned in today's episode, you can find them in the show notes on the website, thecornercutterpodcast.com. As you heard in the intro, huge thanks to Daxton and Reggie, who support the show on Patreon monthly. It means so much to me that you value the podcast enough to give back, and I really appreciate it. If you're interested in becoming a patron, you can go to thecornercutterpodcast.com/Patreon. That's Patreon. Thecornercutterpodcast.com/Patreon. And you get access to bonus content, get mentions on the show, and much more depending on what level you pledge at. For example, this episode, I have an extra 13 to 14 minutes of conversation with JPOM, talking about school and all that, myself as well. So the patrons will be getting access to that. So that wraps up this episode. Remember, you can email in your feedback or just email me to say hi and tell me that you're listening. My email is josh@thecornercutterpodcast.com. So let's take episode 86 back to the scrambling table, and I'll talk to you again next week in episode 87 of the Corner Cutter Podcast. And a couple bloopers with JPOM.
Exactly, yeah, and there really hasn't been an event like this before. Beside, yep. I thought I had an alarm going off.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, my computer battery's a little low. Let me just plug it in.
Sure.
Okay, I'm back.